let's just go through these one at a time and talk about the answers. Some of these you guys did not get to, and we will do them together at the end, okay? So, condoms. The first column asks what it is and how it works. What did you guys find on Friday? Zykia?
It's lambskin, latex, thin tube, covers penis, and catches the sperm.
Correct. How effective is it? Tate?
82%.
82% effective. And then let's talk about the strong points for the condoms. What do we find? Joe?
It says easy to use,
Mm-hmm.
STI protection,
Mm-hmm.
and no doctor visits required.
Okay, so the strengths for condoms, no doctor's visits required. It does give STI protection, and it's easy to use. Okay? What about the weak points for condoms? Zuhair?
If you're allergic to latex.
Okay. You may be allergic to latex, maybe the spermicide as well. Did anybody come up with any other weaknesses? Yes, Jace.
It can break.
It can break. Okay? Correct. Okay, the next one is the Depo-Provera, or what's commonly known as the shot.
Now we're in the female
I
condom.
did both.
Oh, did you guys do female as well? Well, let's do that one. Okay, what is it and how does it work? The female condom.
Obviously goes in the vagina and catches the sperm.
Correct. And how effective is it?
9%.
79% effective. Okay. Strong points. Brody?
Why is that less effective?
You know, I am not sure why it would be less effective. Maybe it has something to do with it being more difficult to use a female condom than a
Or like
male
when you
condom.
take it out, like if some sperm could get out of
That's
it.
true, yeah. Definitely. What about strong points for the female condom? Tate?
It's pretty much the same thing, easy to use, non-hormonal, and STI protection.
Right, right. Very same for the male condom. What about weaknesses? Zuhair?
Uncomfortable.
Could be uncomfortable. Okay. Probably also that you could be allergic to the material. That would also be another weakness, just same as male condom. Okay. What about the shot, the Depo, the next category? What is it and how does it work? Joe?
The shot contains a hormone that prevents the ovaries from releasing eggs.
Right. Okay, Depo or the shot is hormone. Okay? It's a hormonal method of birth control that's going to stop the ovaries from releasing eggs. Okay? You're still going to have a period, you're still going to menstruate, you're just not going to ovulate with the hormone method. How effective is the Depo shot? Zuhair?
94%.
Okay, 94% effective, so pretty effective. What about strong points for Depo? Anne?
It's super effective, easy to remember, easy to use, always available, completely private, long-term coverage.
Correct. So when you do the Depo shot, how long does it last? You guys know?
3 months.
Okay, 3 to 6 months maybe, depending on what kind of shot you get. Okay, so when they talk about how it's super easy to remember, well, you don't have to think about it every day, right? You just have to think about it every 3 months or whenever it's time to go get your shot again. What about weak points? What's maybe some downsides to the Depo? Sore breasts, okay.
Change in appetite.
Weight gain, change in appetite, nausea,
Headaches.
headaches,
Irregular bleeding.
irregular bleeding. Okay, we have a lot of those. And possibly that is because when you get the Depo shot, you're getting a lot of hormones injected at one time, and that can be kind of hard on the body, okay? So what's going to happen is maybe you're going to get a little sick from that. Let's move to the next page that starts with diaphragm, okay? What is it and how does it work for diaphragm? Anne?
It's a small shaved cup made of silicone or latex that a woman inserts into her vagina, and it covers the cervix.
Okay, so it's going to be a small cup and it's going to cover the cervix. So that means it's what kind of method?
Barrier.
Barrier, right. a barrier method. How effective is the diaphragm? Okay, 88% effective. Not as effective. What about some strengths?
Completely private.
Non-hormonal.
Yep, it's completely private. It's non-hormonal. Let's say you're in a relationship, you're a female, you don't want your partner to necessarily know what you are or aren't planning as far as baby for future. Okay, a woman can be using a diaphragm without you knowing it. Okay, it's completely private. You can put a diaphragm in hours before anything. So it is totally private to the female. What about some weaknesses for the diaphragm? Do hair?
Uncomfortable or
Yeah. Could be uncomfortable. Maybe you have allergies to silicone and
No STI protection.
okay. There's no STI protection with this one, okay? So those were some weaknesses. Let's move down to the cervical cap, or what is known as the sponge. What is it, and how does it work? And
It's a sponge. The sponge is a round piece of white plastic foam, and it works in 2 days. Block cervix to keep sperm from getting into the uterus.
okay, so it's going to block the sperm from getting into the uterus.
You
Joe?
put it inside.
Yes. Yes, it does get inserted beforehand. Okay, what about the effectiveness of using this cervical cap or the sponge?
76 or 88.
Okay, between 76 to 88 effective, okay? So there's not really a fine science with this method. It's also not a really popular method, okay? And that could be because of the effectiveness level. Tate, what is a strength to using the cervical cap?
Completely private, non-hormonal.
Okay. What else? Joe?
I have a question.
Yes.
How big is it?
It's not very big.
It's
2
not
inches
too
is
big.
it?
Yeah, it's 2 inches. Okay. Think about when you take a condom out of the package. Okay, that.
I was thinking about like a big sponge.
It's not a sponge like you are gonna do your dishes with. Okay. Totally different. And
Another strong point is that no doctor is it required.
yeah, okay, you can get this at the pharmacy. You know, you can go to Walgreens. You can go to CVS pharmacy. Okay, you don't have to have a doctor's visit. You don't have to tell anybody that this is what you're doing. What about some weaknesses for this cervical cap? Uncomfortable? Jared, what are you gonna say?
allergic to spermicide.
Okay. They have spermicide. Do you guys know what spermicide does?
Something gets rid of sperm.
What?
Gets rid of sperm.
Okay, it kills the sperm. Okay. So usually the sponge has spermicide on it. Okay, and as far as a weakness goes, you could be allergic to the spermicide that is on the sponge. Okay. It could be uncomfortable. That was another thing. What might be one more weakness, Zykia?
No STI protection.
Right. There's no STI protection when you use this method. Okay, so the IUD. It says 3 types, but let's talk about IUDs and what they are. What did you guys find out? Tate?
A small T-shaped piece of plastic that goes into the woman's uterus for 3 to 12 years.
Mm-hmm. Okay, did anybody have anything else down for IUD? Okay, Ann?
I have a lot, so
Go for it.
the IUD or intrauterine device,
Mhm.
if you want to be technical, is a small T piece of plastic that goes into a woman's uterus and protects against pregnancy for 12 years. Depends which one you get though.
Right.
And there's 3 types of them.
Mm-hmm.
Paragard, Mirena, and Skyla.
Mm-hmm.
And after being inserted, it prevents sperm from fertilizing an egg.
Exactly. Okay, so this is something that's inserted, it goes into the uterus, okay? So it's going past the cervix, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got that?
Mhm.
It's shaped like the letter T. How effective is an IUD?
99.
Over 99% effective. Tell me about the strengths of an IUD. Easy to use,
Super effective.
super effective,
Long term.
long term,
Private.
Easy.
private.
No, just kidding.
Okay, the other thing that is going to be a strength to this is, let's say you have a family already, right? You have a couple kids. You're not ready for more, but you don't want to do anything drastic like surgeries. Okay, a lot of families, when they're family planning, will the mother, wife, will get an IUD because it can be inserted by the doctor. It lasts quite a while. But let's say you change your mind, your kids get a little older, and you decide you want to add your family again. You can just have it taken out, and then you can start trying again. Okay?
Is it something you can take out yourself? Or?
No, you cannot take it out yourself. You cannot put it in yourself, Brody.
What if you did have it put in, and then that night, what if you were that 1%, and then you said it could last up to like 12 years?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how would that work?
Like child-wise, if you're gonna have a
Yeah.
child, how is that gonna work? They just take it out.
They take it out. Yep. If you change your mind and you have the IUD, like you have the Mirena or whatever, and you and your husband decide your kids are a little bit older, you think you can handle another baby, and you'd like to try, you would just go to your gynecologist and have them remove it.
Is it expensive?
Probably not. And I think it might also depend on your insurance. I mean, you'd maybe have to do like a copay for the doctor's visit. But no. What about some weaknesses with using an IUD? Pain, okay.
Irregular bleeding.
Irregular bleeding,
No STI protection.
no STI protection. She stole yours.
Raise your hand, Ann.
Do you have any others, Joe? Or whoever you are. All right. Yes.
Insertion might be painful.
Yes. Okay. It's probably pretty uncomfortable. Okay, let's flip to the next page. Let's talk about waiting. What is waiting?
Not having sex.
Abstinence where you don't have sex. How effective is it?
100%.
If you're not having sex, you aren't gonna have a baby. Okay? That easy. What's a strength?
Super effective, easy to remember.
Always available.
Always available. Super effective.
Long
No
term.
pain.
No pain.
Long term.
Long term.
Easy to remember.
STI protection. Thank you, James. What about some downsides? What's a weakness to?
Very hard to say no.
It is.
You gotta be perfect every day.
You gotta be perfect. It's tough to say no. Okay.
Hard
Let's move down to the pill. What is it?
Pill.
to. It's a hormone.
It's a pill.
This is hormones prevent from releasing.
Tate, loud.
A pill releasing hormones to prevent from releasing eggs.
Okay. So this is like the Depo shot. It is going to keep you from releasing eggs. So you'll still have a cycle if you're a woman. You'll still have your period. You're just not going to ovulate because your ovaries are not going to release an egg. Okay? That's the way the pill works. Same thing with the Depo shot and something else we talked about. All right. How effective is it?
91%.
91%. And let's talk about strengths for the pill.
Easy to use.
Effective.
It's effective,
Easy.
easy to use,
Private.
private. And then what are some weaknesses to using the pill?
Remembering.
Yeah, you have to remember, and generally your doctor's going to want you to take that pill at the same exact time every day, which if you don't have a real concrete schedule or routine in your day, it might be hard for you to remember to take it at the exact same time every day, okay?
Nausea, sore breast.
Trouble to
irritable
eat.
bending.
Having trouble eating.
What's that?
Having trouble eating.
Having trouble eating?
Or, yeah.
Taking the pill.
Taking the pill.
Oh, taking the pill, yeah. And then somebody said nausea.
No STI protection.
No STI protection, that would be another weakness, okay? Irregular bleeding. Not breathing. Okay, let's move on to the patch. What is the patch? The next one. Zykia.
It's a thin beige plastic that goes on the skin, and it thickens the cervical and blocks the sperm.
Okay. Okay. It's also hormonal in that it's going to prevent the release of eggs from your ovaries. Okay, I know a lot of people did not finish this up in the lab, so this would be a good time to write all these answers down if you don't have it.
What does it do?
It prevents ovaries from being released, and it also thickens the cervical mucus, so it's going to make it more difficult for sperm to go through the cervix.
What
Okay.
is cervical mucus?
Well, do you know what mucus is? It's that around the cervix. So it gets thicker. Okay?
Kind of like snot.
Kind of like snot, yeah. Yeah.
91%.
Zuhair's way ahead of me. Okay, it is 91% effective to use the patch. Okay, the patch can be put anywhere. I believe they tell you to put it somewhere different every month.
Arm, butt, stomach.
Okay, you can put it on arm, put it on your booty, stomach. What is some of the strengths to using the patch?
Easy to remember.
Long.
Easy to remember, long term, Tate,
Always available, easy to use.
always available.
Effective.
James, did they steal it again?
He didn't steal, he borrowed it.
Well, why don't you tell us about some weaknesses for the patch?
Someone you report
Skin irritation,
Nausea,
James
sore
is
breath.
Oh, I'm sorry.
sore breasts, and no STI protection.
No STI protection, sore breasts, skin irritation. Okay, you may have irregular bleeding, not bleeding. That slip of the. Okay. On the next page, vaginal ring. What is it? Tate.
Flexible ring a female places in her vagina for 3 weeks.
Okay. Anything else?
It's so it doesn't release eggs. No, it doesn't.
Okay, so it's a lot like a patch. If you're not going to release eggs. Anything else that we haven't said yet? This is also another one that's going to thicken the cervical mucus. Okay, so you are preventing your ovaries from releasing an egg, and you're thickening the cervical mucus. And
Oh, you just said it.
how effective is the ring?
91%.
It's 91% effective, okay, which is very similar to the pill, correct?
Yeah.
Yep. What are some strengths of the ring?
Effective.
Effective?
Easy to use.
Joe?
Easy to remember.
Easy to remember.
Long term.
Always there.
It's always there, okay? Once you put it in, you kind of get to forget about it for a month. What else?
Long term.
Long term. Okay, what about some weaknesses, some downsides for using the ring?
Nausea.
Nausea,
Uncomfortable.
could be uncomfortable,
Sore breasts.
sore breasts,
Irregular bleeding.
irregular bleeding,
No STI protection.
no STI protection. Okay. A lot of these things that we're hearing over and over again, like nausea, sore breasts, irregular bleeding, this all has to do with the fact that these are all hormonal methods, okay? Like the ring, the depot, the patch, the pill.
IUD.
The IUD, those things that have hormones in them, okay, they're kind of messing with our body a little bit, which can get confusing sometimes for our bodies. So that's why you're going to have some of those side effects like nausea, irregular bleeding, and things like that, okay? What about the next one, withdraw?
Pull out.
Right, it's also called pulling out. Joe,
Huh?
were you going to say something? He beat you. What about how effective it is?
78%.
78%.
78%, so that's 22% likely to
Get pregnant.
get pregnant, to result in a baby. Okay, never mind. What are some of the strengths to withdraw?
Always available.
Always available,
No
Cheap.
doctor.
cheap, no doctor, you don't have to talk to your doctor about it. Non-hormonal, okay, we're not gonna get nausea,
Easy to use.
easy to use.
Alright.
What about some of the weaknesses for withdrawal?
No STI
You have to be
protection,
perfect
you have to
every-
be perfect every single time.
Okay, you have to be perfect every single time. Are we perfect?
No.
No.
Not really.
Of course not.
Well, I'm not perfect. And then no STI protection. Okay. The last one, I believe.
Yeah, that's the last one.
Emergency contraception. What is emergency contraception?
Stop the pregnancy from happening.
Okay, it's to stop a pregnancy from happening.
Fire.
What's that?
Used for accident.
Used for accidents, okay. This is something you use post intercourse. This is also known as Plan B, or the morning after pill. How effective is emergency contraception?
Depends on the method.
Okay, it depends on the method. I think it also depends on how quickly you get this after you've had unprotected sex. And then what about its strengths?
All methods reduce your risk of unplanned pregnancy.
What's that?
Reduce
Joe?
all methods reduce your risk of unplanned pregnancy.
Okay, there's a few different names that were listed on that website, and they all reduce the chances of unplanned pregnancy, right?
Yeah.
Okay, what else? Did you guys have other strengths written down?
Nope.
That's one I found.
Okay. What about weaknesses?
Pain.
Hey, not just
Short breath.
you really.
Nausea.
Okay, here we are again with the sore breasts, the nausea, pain, bleeding. A lot of this is because this is now like the pill times 100. Okay?
100?
Not really. I'm just saying it's
I'm about to say.
it is a lot of hormones though. Okay, so that can be really taxing on your body.
The Superman of the pills.
The next page had you guys answering some questions. I will give you guys some time to finish these if at the end of the period, okay? Did anybody have this page unfinished? This last page with questions?
Finish it all.
Okay, I'm gonna give you guys like 5-10 minutes right now to do this because next I have a PowerPoint, so I'll give you some time to answer these questions, okay? Then I want you to turn it in so that I can give you a grade for it once it's completed. If it already has a grade, just file it in your binder behind relationships, okay? Are we all clear on what to do with this now?
Yeah.
Okay, finish it if you have to and then give it to me, otherwise file it.
How was your weekend?
Who, me?
Yes.
My
Yes.
weekend was awesome.
It was.
I went-
Why was it awesome?
I went to Des Moines and went shopping with my mom.
Ooh.
Yes, sir.
What'd you get me?
What?
Did you tape an eye, Joe?
Well,
Yes,
What?
you won't know until Christmas time. I was Christmas shopping.
For Utz?
I hope it's not candy.
Blueberries?
I want something real.
You want me to do that one? You can pass one.
Just hold on, we're going home.
Yeah.
Like
I've
Greg?
already been down.
Drake has been killing it that
He's killing the game.
If you've got that finished, that packet, you can go ahead and turn it in up front, just put it.
But if it has a plus, then we just put it
If
on
it
my
has a plus, you are done.
Section
Call Jeremiah.
What about a check mark?
You're good.
Yeah, that means you're done.
I just need you to
what's
make
your
it.
More info, but
I know, she said my name.
What's today's date?
They're not gonna do it.
I know most of it. I just wrote down so where I can understand it. I think it takes
Does everybody have a copy of this guided notes sheet I just handed out?
What's her name?
Okay, we're gonna talk about sex and gender next.
We're gonna talk about what? Sex and
Sex
gender?
and gender.
Let's talk about it.
About sex.
Nope,
Let's talk about you.
we got more to talk about, but yeah.
Really?
Yellow.
Hey, what's
Yeah,
what's
Mrs.
Mrs.
Schultz.
Stoffer's password?
James wants to go write this down on
No,
your
I don't.
agendas
I'm
and
just
he
saying
forgot.
it's not bad.
It's a big deal to him.
It's not planned.
Have you guys ever watched any TED Talks before?
Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
most boring thing in the world.
This is
Some of them were cool.
This
I have
Greg
a-
knows how to
Greg does.
watch them and they're
Who's
all
Ted?
boring.
Okay, I have a TED Talk to go in the middle of this.
Is
so-
it good?
Yeah, it is
Is
good.
it funny?
No, not at all. No. Okay, here's how this works today, guys. There are 4 different categories on this handout, okay? There is a nice empty box for you to take notes. You do not have to write down the PowerPoint word for word. Okay, when I go through each one of these PowerPoints, just jot down what you need to remember, okay? You need a pen. Does anybody have a pen or a pencil?
have it here.
Who needs one? Okay, Eric can borrow.
Oh, so
Have a-
there's one
Don't throw it, please.
I was about to catch it.
Today's date is the 25th.
Gracias.
I thought it was good.
De nada.
Wait, you got-
Okay. Minimal talking. Lots of reading and writing.
Whoa, what?
Okay.
I can't
So,
hear you.
early on, as children, we learn our sex, right?
Yeah.
That's something you figure out pretty young, right? I found this joke, and I thought I would share it with you. It says, at Little Man's daycare, all the children were having lunch and started questioning the gender of spoons and forks, okay? And one child, he had it all figured out. He said that a spoon is a girl because they have tummies, and a fork is a boy because they have a lot of penises. So the reason I wanted to share that with you guys is because we have this idea that we already know all about this, right? We understand gender, we understand sex, but there's actually a ton to this, okay? Sex is not like just male, just female. There is a lot more going on than that. Okay, so the first category is biology. Okay, and that's going to include your external genitalia. It's going to include your reproductive systems, your chromosomes, hormone level, secondary sex characteristics, etc. Okay, secondary sex characteristics are breasts, facial hair, the way you have fat distribution. Okay, men and women, we carry our fat differently, fortunately. My mother always complains about her thunder thighs. Okay? My father does not complain about his thunder thighs. Okay? We have different fat distribution depending on our biological sex. Sorry. Down here I have this line. And under each one of the 4 categories on your handout, I have a blank line. You can, you do not have to, fill this out as we go where you feel you lie. Okay? This isn't going to be turned in. You do not have to do it. But if you want to, you can use your pen or pencil and mark an X maybe where you lie on this continuum. Okay? Generally, biologically, we fall at one end or the other. Okay? You're generally either going to be male or female. But there is another category in the middle known as intersex. We talked a little bit about that last week. We were like, what is that? Okay? We're going to talk about that today.
So we're marking if we're male or female right now?
You can or you can't. It's up to you. Okay?
Or if you're
Or like,
Or if you're intersex. Okay? We're going to get to that. Does everybody have this slide? Can we move on? Okay. So if I were doing this, I would put a little X right here. Okay?
oh, we're putting X's, I thought we're coloring it
You
in.
can color it in. I left an open space because I know some of you are artistic and like that. So you can color it in, you can mark an X, you can put a smiley face.
That's the different bit.
do what you gotta do.
Like this, sir.
I'm female, okay? Mark where you think you fall on this continuum.
I'm good.
Okay? Ready to
Is
go?
there, is there
Next.
something that
Yeah.
would be like between male and intersex or between female and intersex? Just curious.
Yes, I understand.
So
Yes, no, that's not a stupid question.
I didn't even say that.
I don't get how that would make
If you
sense.
think
Okay.
they're more of a female,
You
Like a
can lean
female?
towards being more intersex. Yes, you don't have to be completely male. Okay? Some people are born, some males are born with ovaries and they don't know it.
Huh?
Eh,
Does that mean they can get pregnant?
If
I
they
mean-
have a uterus and sperm somehow finds their way to it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
going on board.
So,
They get
no.
themselves pregnant.
does everyone have this slide down? Because we'll answer more of those questions.
Okay.
Okay, so this scale consists of not just two categories, but it actually is a continuum, and some people can fall in the middle. The space in the middle is occupied by intersex people who have combinations of physical characteristics, such as an organ that could be thought of as a small penis or large clitoris, or an XXY chromosomal pattern. Write this down.
Is this still
we were,
biology?
This is still biology, okay? This is still our first
no.
one.
All that down?
7.
Yes.
What if you don't have anything?
You have to write all that down.
No, I said you can write down what you want.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so my TED Talk is about this. I'm going to open that up and we're going to watch that a little bit. We're going to talk about intersex.
Then you write it.
Okay, it's on the screen, so if we can like finish.
No, it's not on screen. Gotcha, buddy.
Assuming I can get it to work first.
You have to refresh it.
It's too quiet.
We're not going to watch this whole thing.
Why?
No.
And have sex that isn't standard for male or female. So in
I'm
one
going to back it up just a little bit here.
order and untypical. And a lot of what I've worked on is people who have atypical sex. So people who don't have the standard male or the standard female body types. And as a general term, we can use the term intersex for this. Intersex comes in a lot of different forms. I'll just give you a few examples of the types of ways you can have sex that isn't standard for male or female. So in one instance, you can have somebody who has an XY chromosomal basis, and that SRY gene on the Y chromosome tells the protogonads, which we all have in the fetal life, to become testes. So in the fetal life, those testes are pumping out testosterone. But because this individual lacks receptors to hear that testosterone, the body doesn't react to the testosterone. And this is a syndrome called androgen insensitivity syndrome. So lots of levels of testosterone, but no reaction to it. As a consequence, the body develops more along the female typical path. When the child is born, she looks like a girl. She is a girl. She is raised as a girl, and it's often not until she hits puberty and she's growing and developing breasts, but she's not getting her period, that somebody figures out something's up here. And they do some tests and figure out that instead of having ovaries inside and a uterus, she actually has testes inside, and she has a Y chromosome. Now, what's important to understand is you may think of this person as really being male, but they're really not. Females, like males, have in our bodies something called the adrenal glands. They're in the back of our body. And the adrenal glands make androgens, which are a masculinizing hormone. Most females, like me, I believe myself to be a typical female. I don't actually know my chromosomal makeup, but I think I'm probably typical. Most females, like me, are actually androgen sensitive. We're making androgens and we're responding to androgens. The consequence is that somebody like me has actually had a brain exposed to more androgens than the woman born with testes who has androgen insensitivity syndrome. So sex is really complicated. It's not just that intersex people are in the middle of all the sex spectrum. In some ways, they can be all over the place. Another example, a few years ago, I got a call from a man who was 19 years old who was born a boy, raised a boy, had a girlfriend, had sex with his girlfriend, had a life as a guy, and had just found out that he had ovaries and a uterus inside. What he had was an extreme form of a condition called congenital adrenal hyperplasia. He had XX chromosomes, And in the womb, his adrenal glands were in such high gear that it created essentially a masculine hormonal environment. And as a consequence, his genitals were masculinized, his brain was subject to the more typical masculine component of hormones, and he was born looking like a boy. Nobody suspected anything. And it was only when he had reached the age of 19 that he began to have enough medical problems, actually from menstruating internally, that doctors figured out that in fact he was female internally. Okay, so just one more quick example of a way you can have intersex. Some people who have XX chromosomes develop what are called ovotestes, which is when you have ovarian tissue with testicular tissue wrapped around it. And we're not exactly sure why that happens. So sex can come in lots of different varieties. The reason that children with these kinds of bodies, whether it's dwarfism or it's conjoined twinning or it's an intersex type, are often normalized by surgeons is not because it actually leaves them better off in terms of physical health. In many cases, people are actually perfectly healthy. The reason they're often subject to various kinds of surgeries is because they threaten our social categories. Our system has been based typically on the idea that a particular kind of anatomy comes with a particular identity. So we have the concept that what it means to be a woman is to have a female identity. What it means to be a black person is allegedly to have an African anatomy in terms of your history. And so we have this terribly simplistic idea. And when we're faced with a body that actually presents us something quite different, it startles us in terms of those categorizations. So we have a lot of very romantic ideas in our culture about individualism. And our nation is really founded on a very romantic concept of individualism. Well, you can imagine how startling then it is when you have children who are born who are two people inside of one body. Where I ran into the most kind of heat from this most recently was last year when the South African runner Caster Semenya had her sex called into question at the International Games in Berlin. I had a lot of journalists calling me, asking me, which is the test they're going to run that will tell us whether or not Caster Semenya is male or female? And I had to explain to the journalists, there isn't such a test. In fact, we now know that sex is complicated enough that we have to admit nature doesn't draw the line for us between male and female, or between male and intersex and female and intersex. We actually draw that line on nature.
Okay. Clear as mud, right?
Yep.
So,
Why
I
not?
know that's a joke. I don't know why it does this rain thing. Okay. So did that explain it a little bit more? Okay, it's really rare being intersex. Okay, it has a lot to do with chromosomes, has a lot to do with hormones. Generally, when a baby is found to be of intersex, they usually do some sort of surgery to assign them one or the other. Most of the times that backfires on them later because that actual baby grows up into a person and doesn't want what the parents chose. So this is all really complicated stuff, okay? But you will usually fall on either the male or the female side of this biological sex category, okay? Are we good with this slide? Okay. The next one is gender identity, okay? This is how people think of themselves and identify in terms of sex, either male or female. Okay, think of this one as being in your head. Okay, your gender identity is in your head. It is psychological, unlike biological sex. It can't be observed or measured, only reported by the individual. I look female. Maybe I identify, maybe my gender identity is male. You don't know it. It's in my head, and it is personal to me, okay? Like biological sex, it consists of more than two categories. So you could feel male, or you could think of yourself, identify as a man. You could identify with a female gender, or you could be somewhere in the middle, okay? A third gender and agender are basically the same thing. You don't identify as male or female. It's not a new gender that somebody made up. It's not aliens. It's not animals. You just don't assign yourself or identify with any gender at all. Okay? Two-spirit would be both. Okay? You could identify as a man some days and as a woman other days. Okay? Remember, this is personal. This is in your head. Okay?
So this is like what you're attracted to?
No. We'll get to that. So gender identity, it doesn't have to do with who you are attracted to. Gender identity just has to deal with you in a sense of what you identify your gender to be. Okay? Psychologically, do you think of yourself as a male? Psychologically, do you think of yourself as a female? Okay?
So basically, what you see your ideal self as.
Yes. When you think about yourself and when you think about your gender, you don't see the physical body parts that you have. I mean, maybe you do. If you're male and you identify, your gender identity is male, then yes. But it is very possible that people with gender identify with the opposite gender than what they were biologically assigned to. Okay, the next one is gender expression. Okay? Gender expression is everything we do that communicates our sex and our gender to others. This one is not all in our head, it is our outsides. Okay? It's what we wear. It's how we style our hair. It's mannerisms, the way we speak, the roles we take in interactions. Okay? Do we take more of a leader approach? Do we take more of a mothering approach to things? And it's communication may be purposeful or accidental, okay? It's just a part of you. And it could be called social gender because it relates to interactions between people. I'm sure that at this point in your life, everybody has heard of transvestites, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so, no, transvestite. Transvestites are male. They dress as women. Okay. Cross-dresser, people who dress in drag. Okay. Their gender expression is the opposite of their biological gender. Okay. I know this can get tricky. But this is how you express yourself. Okay, so this one has a content. Oh, do you need to go back? Oh yeah, there's more. There's a lot for this one. Okay, so this one has a continuum just like the other two did. Okay, so your gender expression is going to also exist at either one end or the other, generally masculine for men, feminine for females. But in between, there are people who express their gender androgynously. Okay, so they do it neither masculine or feminine. And there can also be various points along this continuum where they fall. I have some pictures of generally androgynous people. This lady right here is Tilda Swinton. She's an actress. Okay, she's known for being androgynous. She keeps her hair short. She does not wear a lot of makeup. If you see her on the red carpet for a movie, she's almost always wearing a suit. Okay, she dresses in a really masculine way. She's a beautiful woman, she's straight, but she's more androgynous. This is David Bowie. He has a persona in the 70s, Ziggy Stardust, and when he was Ziggy on stage, he wore lots of makeup. He had orange hair, it was long, this was when mullets were cool, so he was very androgynous. January Jones, she's female, but she also dresses masculine quite a bit. Boy George, he is gay, but he dresses very feminine.